guys, Caitlin at Mill Farm. I made a video earlier showing how to harvest and clean dandelions. This video is going to be how to use the actual greens. If you haven't watched the harvesting video, go ahead and go watch that so you have an idea of how I made it to this stage. These are my clean dandelion greens. They've been washed. I picked only the small ones out. I'm going to make basically a wilted green salad. I'm not going to use too awful many of the dandelions because my family does not love like spicy bitter kind of flavors. I do, but they don't. So I'm going to mix it with spinach to kind of tone that flavor down. The other things I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of our jowl bacon from our own hogs. And then I'm running low on store onions, so I had to go get some yard onions. I'm not going to tell you how to identify yard onions. I don't know that there's anything they could be mistaken for, but once you learn how to identify them, feel free to use them. I dug these when I was digging up the dandelions, and all I've got to do is take off the root section, chop up the onion itself. I'm not going super far up the green, just because they were getting a little wilty, you can see. And if I had store onions, I would be doing rings, just because I think it's pretty. I like the rings, but since I have literally 2 store onions left and, you know, we're still on lockdown and all that good stuff, I'm trying to save them in case I just have this specific recipe that I can't use yard onions for. But just gonna get a few of them chopped up. And that's gonna depend on how you like it. Like, I like things super oniony, my family not so much, so I'll do less than I would if it was just for me. But if your family likes a lot of onion, do a lot. If they don't like much, just do a little, whatever your family prefers. And then I'm gonna chop the jowl bacon too. I cook almost all my vegetables in bacon or bacon grease. I'm not going to apologize for that. It makes me happy and makes things taste better. But I am just going to take and dice these up. And so it's going to be, I'm going to go with slices about like that. It's about a medium thickness bacon. And I'm just going to get me... People hate me because I don't use actual recipes. I'm just going to eyeball it and do what I think based on the amount of greens I know I have, the amount of fat I like to have and stuff. I'm just going to eyeball it. But then that gives me it's going to be a little more than a handful. But I'm going to cut up a few more onions, and then we'll get this all put in the skillet. Okay, so first things first, after I got everything chopped up, I've got my cast iron skillet. I've got it on about medium heat. And first thing I'm gonna do is put my bacon in. And get it browned. And like I said, I don't really measure. It just always depends on my mood, what I want, that kind of thing, how much I've got. You know, we've still got a decent amount of pigs, so I'm not being fancy with it yet. And I'll just cook this until all the bacon's kind of crispy, not super crispy because I still want to add my onion. I also ended up cutting up 3 cloves of garlic to put in. I didn't video that part, but just know that when I put the onion in, there's also 3 cloves of garlic with it. I didn't feel like I had enough yard onion to really give it much flavor, so I decided to do some garlic too. But I'm just going to sit here and cook this, and once I get it all to the stage where I'm ready to add my onions, I'll show you that part. Okay, you can kind of see that my bacon isn't totally crispy yet, but it's getting there. If you don't like a lot of grease, you could drain some of this off. I'm actually keto, so I eat quite a bit of fat in my foods. So I'm not going to drain this, and I know that might gross some of you out because that means there's going to be a good bit of greasiness to my greens, but this is how I do it. Okay, so here is my yard onions and my garlic that I diced up, and I've still got the heat on medium. I'm going to turn it just a little bit because I don't want to scorch my garlic and stuff. I'm going to turn it to just a little below medium, and then add my onions and garlic. And quite honestly, frying it in bacon is how I fix almost all of my vegetables. Like I said, I know the grease grosses some people out, but it keeps me full, and you know, it's been good for my health, believe it or not, so I'm going to keep eating this way. Okay, so I'm going to cook it down a little bit and let the onions, this won't take as long with the yard onions as it would if I was using store onions. Store onions would take a little longer to get translucent and cook down a little bit. These are not going to take too awful long at all. Like you can already see that big one is almost where it needs to be. And then as I've been cooking, little crunchy bits have been kind of getting stuck to the pan, and you know, I kind of scrape those a little bit. But once these onions are where they need to be, we'll do something called, I think it's called deglazing the pan. I'm not real positive. I just know I'll dump a little bit of apple cider vinegar in. I'm not sure you can see. This is organic apple cider vinegar. Only because that's what Walmart had. You know, I mean, I like organic stuff, but it's not the end of my world if it's not. I do like it to have the mother, and this one does. But I'm going to let this cook for just a few minutes, and when it's time to add the vinegar, I'll start back up. Okay, so my onions, garlic, and bacon are all where I want them. And like I said, a lot of people would drain most of that fat off. I'm really not gonna. Now I'm ready to add my vinegar. And if you're using vinegar that has the mother in it, make sure you shake it and get that mixed in good. Again, I'm not gonna measure. I'm just gonna add a bit to it. And spread it around and get it cooking. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit. Okay, and then like I said, I am keto, so I don't use real sugar. So I use stevia. This has a little bit of a vanilla flavor, so until you get used to it, you may not love this in your savory type foods, but I don't mind it anymore. I'm not going to measure too much, but this is like 1 teaspoon of this is the equivalent of 2 teaspoons sugar. So make sure if you switch to using this and you've never used it before that you pay attention to that. If you add as much of this as you would normally of sugar, you're going to be a little grossed out. If you aren't keto and you don't care, you can just use regular sugar. Or if you have a sweetener you prefer. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit in there and get that stirred around. And then the last thing to do, you can do this one of 2 ways. Some people just like their greens barely wilted, so what they'll do is they'll take this mixture and they'll dump it on top of their greens. I'm going to add my greens in and cook them quickly. Like, I don't want them to be totally mush, but I like them a little more wilted than you get just dumping the hot stuff on. Fire is down on kind of low. I'm going to start with the dandelion greens. Toss them in. And then I had a bag of spinach I was given that I want to use up. And so I'm going to tear the bigger leaves up and put in there. And all you do is, you know, move it around. It wilts really fast in this. And then I'm just going to get it all in the pan. And then I've got a clean bowl for when it's ready to come out so that it won't continue cooking. See if I can get this tossed a little better. And then when you get it to where you like it, go ahead and pull it out. I'm going to cook these down just a little bit more before I pull them out, mostly so those stems will get a little softer. And you can see the dandelion greens just got mixed in real good with everything else. Okay, I'm going to get ready to dump that into my serving bowl. And there it is. Pretty easy. You could have done more wild greens instead of the spinach. You can find wild mustard. There should be wild lettuce. I mean, there's all kinds of wild greens that could have been substituted for the spinach or even substituted for the dandelions, but that's all there is to it. I hope you guys try it. Hope you guys like it. If you see anything that you would do different, holler at me, let me know. I'm always up for trying new things. But thanks for stopping by and watching how to cook dandelion greens.